Disaster struck in the Yankees infield as second baseman Jazz Chisholm had it revealed in an MRI that he has a high-grade right oblique strain. This was told to the media by manager Aaron Boone, and this is an injury that's far worse than what Jazz Chisholm had originally believed it would be. He was shocked to see the MRI come back with such a negative imaging. And with that being said, the Yankees are expected to not have Chisholm for 4 to 6 weeks, according to Aaron Boone, and that it's going to be an extended period on the IL. Thus, infield prospect Yorbit Vivas has been thrust into the spotlight. He made his major league debut last night in the Yankees' 3-0 win against the Tampa Bay Rays, getting on base twice via the walk. And we're going to talk about why he could be a nice kind of bridge option while Chisholm's down, who potentially earns himself some more playing time even when Chisholm's back by having a strong stint over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to talk about Chisholm's injury, Vivas, all that and more right here on Fireside Yankees. What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees. I'm your host for today's episode, and with Jazz Chisholm being out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, it definitely limits the Yankees' power output and power potential, knowing that Chisholm had been one of their better home run hitters this season. I know he had hit the skids as of late and hasn't really been himself since really that first weekend of the season, but I think people underrate the quality of at-bat that he can provide because of just how much power he has in his bat. The fact that he was heating up a little bit, he had played much better baseball over the last few weeks, or I was doing a lot better offensively over the last 2 weeks than he had been really when he truly hit the skids and could not stop striking out. He had a double in his last at-bat before hitting the IL, and in the 8 games leading up to his IL stint was slashing 273, 452, 455 with a home run, a double, and most notably a 22.6% walk rate. So the quality of at bat had been improving before hitting the IL, and the glove had been really good at second base. He has 3 defensive runs saved and 3 outs above average and 251 innings of work out there. So this is definitely a loss for the Yankees, and not having him for the next 4 to 6 weeks is going to negatively affect them. But it does it's definitely not the worst case scenario, considering that oblique issues can be far more devastating. And this could have occurred later in the season where, you start talking about potentially missing time in the postseason or not having about a month of at-bats leading into October to get yourself right. So the timing of this injury, the lengthiness of this injury, I wouldn't consider it a worst-case scenario for the Yankees, but rather just an unfortunate outcome. But what this does do is create an opportunity for Yorbit Vivas to get some playing time, and I think you see it in his first game, the patient approach, the control of the strike zone, the ability to recognize pitches in zone and swing, and then, know not to swing at pitches out of the zone and put yourself in bad counts or in bad situations or bail a pitcher out. Yorbit Vivas had an impressive 2025 season with the Scranton Rail Riders so far. In 26 games, he was slashing 319, 426, 436. He had just 8 strikeouts in 116 plate appearances. That's a 6.9% strikeout rate. And he had 15 walks, giving him a 12.9% walk rate. So again, the walk rate was elite. The strikeout rate was one of the lowest in AAA. In fact, if you look at qualified AAA hitters, Yorbit Vivas' 6.9% strikeout rate was the 3rd lowest mark, and his strikeout to walk ratio, or his walk to strikeout ratio of 1.88 was also the 3rd highest mark among qualified AAA hitters. He had been an on-base machine. He was setting the tone for the Scranton Rail Riders, and now he comes over to the Yankees, and we see some of that plate discipline early on. I was really impressed with the at-bats that Vivas had been providing at the minor league level, and I thought that his skill set had actually gotten considerably better between 2024 and 2025. When you look at the underlying metrics, in 2024, he whiffed 25% of the time. This year, only whiffing 11.1% of the time. He had a 2.5% barrel rate. Again, this year, a 5.7% barrel rate. So that barrel rate's more than doubled, while seeing that whiff rate cut down by 14%, being slashed more than just in half. So that's a big, big improvement. Expected weighted on base average, the metric we can look at to evaluate the quality of hitter. It factors in walks, strikeouts, quality of contact, And Yorbit Vivas went from a 299 expected weighted on base average to a 391 expected weighted on base average. That is a near 100-point improvement. His quality of contact has gotten significantly better. His chase rates are down. His zone swing rates are actually up. So when he gets pitches to hit in the zone, he's swinging more. When he gets pitches out of the zone, he's swinging less. He's doing more damage on contact. The overall improvements to his skill set and to the underlying numbers have been really, really impressive, and they've reflected in much better results in Scranton than what we saw last year, especially in that second half when he struggled. Vivas is someone who I think, you struggle to give them a high projection because of the lack of serious game power. Yorbit Vivas is not going to hit 20 home runs in a season. He may never hit 15 home runs in a season. And that definitely brings into question whether he can be a quality big leaguer for a very long time. But I also think that it makes you wonder, maybe this is a guy who flew under the radar because of his lack of power. I assessed his skill set as a prospect, and I gave him a 60 grade hit tool, a 30 grade power tool, a 50 grade run tool, a 55 grade fielding tool, and an overall 40 grade for him as a prospect. His future value is FV. For those who are unaware, FV, or future value, is graded on a 20 to 80 scale, the same way we rate tools. A 50 is average. So, for example, his 50 grade run tool, I grade Vivas out as about a league average runner. His 55 grade field tool is better than average, but not elite in my opinion. That's just due to the lack of a strong arm. His range is pretty good. His defensive IQ is pretty strong. You could argue that that's maybe a little bit too, conservative of a defensive grade. And then his hit tool, I give him a 60. So the 20 to 80 scale works in the manner in which a 50 is average. A 60 is one standard deviation better than average. That's good. Two standard deviations better would be 70. That's really good. And then 3 standard deviations, 80 grade. Think of like Aaron Judge's power or Chandler Simpson's speed, kind of these outlier freakish tools. You don't really want to be handing out multiple 80 grades to multiple prospects every single year. It should be very rare. It's something that I think should be very exclusive. And so that's why you see me giving someone like Vivas, who has displayed something that maybe reflects an elite hit tool, and not give it a 70, not even give it a 65, give it a 60, be a little more conservative, because at the end of the day, when you translate this to the big leagues, yeah, there are a lot of guys who are big leaguers who could run an 11.1% whiff rate that you wouldn't even think of that are currently big leaguers, because AAA is a lot easier to hit at than the major leagues. So I try to be a little more conservative with the grades I hand out, as to not prop up a guy into getting, a future value grade of like 50, and they're a league average everyday starter. Well, that's not a fair medium projection for a guy who isn't a top 100 prospect, or isn't even, in that conversation. Vivas is someone who was more of a back end top 30 guy. With Dominguez and Warren graduating, I had him as my kind of in that 25 to 30 range, 28, 27, somewhere there. I thought that was an appropriate place to rank Vivas at the point of him being promoted and making his major league debut today. I'm recording this the night of. This will come out in the morning. I personally was really impressed with Vivas's quality of at bat, the major league level, through his first 3 at bats. The patience, he had an 0-2 count. He worked that a walk out of that. The first one was just 4 straight pitches out of the zone. Not saying that that's not cool, but once you go ahead 1-0 in a count, or you're up 2-0 in a count, I really do think that once you go up 2-0 in a count, like at that point, you're just not in swing mode as the 9 hitter, especially when you have Grisham, Judge, like just right behind you. But when you're down 0-2, you're in swing mode, you're in protect mode, I've got to make contact, and I've got to make good swing decisions. And he was facing 2 pitchers who have really good changeups and really good 4-seamers, which can be hellish for a left-handed hitter when those 2 guys are right-handed pitchers. So I thought Vivas was facing a high quality of opponent, a tough opponent for him to face early on, a good challenge, and he responded beautifully. I thought, again, the quality of plate appearance, the quality of at bat, the swing decisions, I was really impressed with them. The first at bat, it just felt like he was nervous, like he swung out of his shoes when he struck out. But I also think that that's a good thing, that he's taking aggressive hacks at pitches that you can hit. That's a fastball in the strike zone. Like, I want him taking his A swing against that pitch, because I want him to do damage on that pitch. But more importantly, I just want to be sure that he's swinging at strikes. I'm never going to punish a guy or get upset at a guy for swinging at a strike. If you swing at a pitch that's in your wheelhouse, especially if it's not a 3-0 count, like if it's not a 3-0 count and you swing at a pitch that's right there for you, that's cool with me. It's all about the process of that bat, and I think that's what we're trying to evaluate here. And if you look at Yorbit Vivas's tape in Scranton and you look at the numbers, he does make a lot of really good swing decisions. He does tend to know the strike zone well, and that's a really advanced skill for someone who doesn't have a lot of pro experience, major league experience. He does have quite a bit of pro experience. He's played in the minor leagues for a few years now, but the minor leagues are nothing compared to the major leagues. So when it comes to Yorbit Vivas, I think you're getting a sure-handed glove at second, someone who's going to make all the plays you need him to make and can make some plays that other second basemen can't make. He's got pretty good range, but don't expect him to be someone who can just slide over the third and play well there. I don't think the Yankees are planning on playing him at third. I'm pretty sure I saw Aaron Boone mention that he's going to exclusively kind of be their second baseman, and I think that's the right decision. I do not think Vivas has the arm for third base. Again, this is a guy who's got more range, more of like a smart defender. Again, he's going to make all the plays you need him to make. He'll turn double plays. He'll do all that stuff. And that's why I gave him a 55 grade tool defensively. Again, I don't think he's going to win a gold glove at second base, but we've seen some guys who I think have really taken off defensively in the Yankee organization after some time in the major leagues. I think of Austin Wells, who was consistently graded out as a below average defender by most evaluators. I didn't grade him out as a below average one. I had him more as like a league average defender catcher when he graduated. But that was just because I really thought the framing had come a long way, and I was right on that. That was one of those moments where you just pat your back. But when I look at like Anthony Volpe, I consider him a below average defensive shortstop when he graduated. I would have given him like a 45. And he is like a 70 grade defensive shortstop, a 65 grade defensive shortstop, somewhere in that range if you grade him based on his skill set right now. So for Vivas, is that 55 capable, or that like just makes all the plays, does what you have to do at second? You're not going to be pissed watching him play there. Can that develop into, hey, he can make some really special plays? He's a smart defender. Like how does that tool get better or worse as he spends more time in the big leagues? That'll be interesting to see, because I think that will allow him to be a major league bench player, someone who plays a role on a contender, or maybe even an everyday starter. I think that's part of the conversation here as well. If Vivas plays well over the next 4 to 6 weeks, do the Yankees consider him a potential full-time starter? Now, a reason I mention this, despite him being a left-handed hitter and the Yankees needing right-handed hitting depth, is because Yorbit Vivas has the unique quirk of being a left-handed hitter who I actually think can handle left-handed pitching. So if you look at his numbers in each of the last 2 seasons, so in 2024 and 2025, in 2024, he actually performed better against lefties. He barreled the ball more against lefties. He had a 474 slug, a 382 on base, 276 average, a 374 weighted on base average. And this year, while the results have been worse, he still has a 391 OBP, and more importantly, a 427 expected weighted on base average. So if you combine the numbers from the last 2 seasons, he's been really good against lefties and better against lefties than he has been against righties. So I know that that's not the most reliable data in the world. You can't just look at minor league data from, about a year and a half of playing and say, this guy can hit lefties for sure. But this is more so to say that I think Vivas can hold his own against a left-handed pitcher, not maybe Tanner Scott. Like if Tanner Scott was on the mound, I'm not sure Vivas would have a good time, but I'm not sure anyone would have a good time facing Tanner Scott or Garrett Crochet, or, if Max Fried had to face him. And, we all know how good Max Fried is. But I do say this to say that I think Vivas is not going to kill you in his at-bats against left-handed pitching. And that kind of matters, because I don't trust Oswald Peraza right now, and I don't trust Pablo Reyes right now. And I'm getting the sentiment that the fan base feels very similarly in regards to the quality of at-bat that those 2 guys are giving you, even against left-handed pitching. So can Vivas play, earn his time, have some good at-bats, work some walks against lefties, get the occasional hit every now and then? I think it's possible. And I think that the quality of at-bat being decent is a game changer, because you need someone who can put the ball in play against a lefty and in a big spot. We lost the game against the Orioles, arguably, because Pablo Reyes couldn't do that. And things like that are going to cost you baseball games. The Yankees have lost baseball games in the margins. They have not lost baseball games because they've gotten the doors beaten off of them by another team, where they've gotten flat out dominated and it's ugly. And, oh man, this team's getting crushed today. It's yeah, this team's not putting a runner over. They've got a runner on third and a runner on first and one out, and they can't score. It's extra innings, and they can't get the ghost runner in. That's how they're losing ball games. So, that's you don't want that, to say the very least. You don't want your team to be in a situation where they just can't do the little things at the bottom of the order. Now, Volpe's at bats being better helps, but the subtraction of Jazz Chisholm makes your lineup weaker. So how do you combat that? You hope that Vivas can provide you with some quality at bats. You hope that Bellinger steps up soon. You hope that Judge keeps crushing, Rice keeps crushing, Grisham keeps crushing, Goldschmidt keeps crushing. You hope that Wells can get it going a little bit. You hope that Oswaldo can provide some big hits. But, at the end of the day, you've got to be able to look at your infield and say, we can get some good at-bats going here. And I don't feel that way when Peraza or Reyes are hitting. I don't feel that way at all. And I'm not saying you're going to feel that way about Vivas 100%, but that there are the tools here that I think the Yankees just kind of lack. They don't really have this super high contact, super high, super low chase rate, like really, really good feel for the plate, really, really good feel for making contact at the bottom of the order. You want some of those guys to just kind of be able to bring into game situationally and have in the right circumstances to win baseball games. So I do think Yorbit Vivas' skill set fits this roster specifically very well. If he was right-handed, I'd be like, yes, like this guy could be the starting second baseman of the New York Yankees. But because he's not right-handed, I'm going to be inherently a little bit skeptical that he's going to fill that need for a guy who can kill lefties. But I do think he can play a serviceable role in this team. And I also think that when we start talking about a youth movement, we start talking about production from the minor leagues, having a guy like Vivas come up and be like a solid everyday second baseman can do a couple of things for you. Number one, maybe it allows you to prioritize pitching at the deadline if that's your need. Number two, maybe it allows you to prioritize getting a really big, like an impactful bat from the right-handed side, a position that, maybe isn't second base or third base. Or maybe, and this is option C here, Vivas plays well enough where, he's maybe not good enough to treat as an untouchable, but good enough to garner value in the trade market, and that he's someone that you can leverage in a deal to get this big time kind of nice bat at third, a right-handed hitter, hit him fifth or fourth even, that kind of thing. I think that would also be an ideal situation for the New York Yankees. So I really find it interesting that Vivas is coming up, and I love that he's coming up, and I love that Boone's committed to playing him. I think that that's something that, Boone has to stick to. I don't really see it with Reyes. I don't really see it with Peraza at this point in time in their careers. I also kind of, secretly hope that both those guys just like prove me wrong and have a month of May where they hit like 5 home runs or 6 home runs. And I just look like a giant moron for, sitting here and saying you should basically ice those two guys out. But I'm also not optimistic that they're going to prove me wrong. And in Vivas's case, what are my expectations for him? What are some optimistic or like realistically optimistic, like a good outcome that isn't some fan fiction or BS or whatever it may be? I think like a 240 hitter with a 330 OBP and like a 400 slug, somewhere in that, or not 400, excuse me, like a 380, 390 slug, somewhere in that range. Like, can that happen? Sure. And that's a decent major leaguer, like with his glove and with his decent base running value. That's like a 100, 105 WRC plus hitter who probably racks up 2.5 to 3 WAR during a season. That's a realistic, optimistic outcome. Vivas certainly has like the batted ball abilities to also be this like guy who just catches fire for a month with a super high BABIP and walk rate. That wouldn't be the most sustainable profile in the world, but I don't think that we're here for sustainability. We're here for just can he produce while Jazz is gone. And again, I think Vivas is capable of providing a quality at bat to the New York Yankees in the meantime. We'll see though. I, again, was really impressed with the quality of that bat. I really like the improvements in skills. Again, the chase rate's better. The contact rates are better. The damage rates are better. Everything's better across the board from last year. And this is a young hitter who's got, really, really good feel for the strike zone, something that I think just plays well at any pro level. So with that being said, we appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out Fireside Yankees. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And of course, check out Fireside Yankees on all of your favorite social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, this YouTube page. The handle is now for all of those platforms at Fireside Yankees. There's no at Fireside.Yankees on Instagram anymore. It's just Fireside Yankees now, which is great. So we really appreciate your guys' continued support. If you want written coverage of the New York Yankees, check out empiresportsmedia.com. We've got all the favorite New York sports teams on there: Giants, Rangers, Knicks, etc., etc. So stay up to date there. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody. Let's go Yankees. And I'm going to throw in a nice little let's go Knicks. Peace out, everyone.
Perfect.